Text is a very important tool throughout several different programs and designs as well. So in this lesson, we're going to learn how to use text through the Type tool. To the left side of your screen, you should see a toolbar. This toolbar should have an icon that looks like a capital T. Go ahead and left click on it, and by doing so, you'll notice that you end up having a dark gray area selected around it. This means that it is the current tool that is selected. So, when you select a Type tool, there's actually two different types of formatting. You'll notice up here there's the letter A for character formatting controls, and then there's a little paragraph symbol for paragraph formatting controls. Now between the two, they have several different tools that are different, as well as several different settings that are the same. So to begin, we're going to go over the character formatting controls, starting from the top row, going left to right, and then we'll go to the second row. But before we go anywhere else, we need actual text to work with. So with your text tool selected, go over your document and left click and drag. By doing so, you'll see a blue rectangular box that appears. This is known as your text frame, or your frame in general. This is basically a way that we can end up organizing and utilizing the best space depending on if we're using text, pictures, video, or any other content for the means of your project. So this space that I'm drawing right now is where all my text is going to end up being at the moment. So when you're done drawing the rectangular frame, just let go of the left click, and then you can start typing in words. Now my text right now is really small, and we'll go back over how to change it in a second, or you'll see right now what I'm doing. But let's start all the way here to the left. This right here is known as your font type. So basically you have thousands, the hundreds of different selections. Whether you want Arial or Helvetica or some crazy font, it will likely be in here. And if it's not, you can always download it and import it into the font book. But you can see, as long as I have my text highlighted inside of the text box on my InDesign document, I can literally change not only the font type, but the font weight at the same time. After that, you'll notice that the tool to the right of that is your font height, or your font size, so to say. So right now I have 36 point. This is basically what makes your text smaller, or what makes it bigger. Simple enough, as several of you have probably used Microsoft Word before. The three tools after that are very easy tools. All you have to do is click on them and they activate themselves. And if you don't want them any longer, you just click on them again to deactivate them. The first one is your all caps, which basically makes all of your letters capitalized. Your second one here is known as your superscript. Now superscripts, as well as subscripts, which we'll end up seeing later, are mainly used for giving reference to a different piece of work from somebody else's literature, somebody else's article. It's basically a way to give credit to somebody else's source or information. You see these all the time when you end up doing your own bibliographies or things like that, kind of like a works cited page. So when we click on it, you'll notice that it actually formats itself to be a superscript. The one following that is your underline tool, so that ends up underlining all of the words you have. And then after that, you have this one called kerning. Now, kerning is the process of adding or subtracting space between specific pairs of characters. So this one I usually leave and just stay on metrics. I've never really had much success with it in the past, because every time I end up trying to use it, I end up doing an option to where I end up having way too much space and my formatting just goes berserk. So I just leave it on metrics. It will end up identifying itself. The following one after that is vertical scale. This is basically how much your text is scaled on a vertical level. And the tool right after that is the exact opposite. It is the horizontal scale. So how much is your text going to be scaled left to right instead, or on the horizontal value? Following that, you have this thick capital T. This is your fill color. So if you want to end up making your text colorful, all you have to do is click on the arrow beside it, and then just double click on a swatch, or even just click once on a swatch. And you'll notice that it immediately changes the color of your text. Now the next one here, you'll notice that there's a letter A, and then there's two drop down boxes. One right now says none, the other one says English USA. This is your character style, and it's a little bit tricky to explain. The best way that I can explain it is it basically is a way that the computer and Adobe InDesign together end up taking previous data from different documents or forms that you input into your document, collects the data. So for example, collects what font type, what size, what type of font weight you're using, and can be applied to this situation. So for example, if I click on this none, you'll notice that I have this one that says Word Imported List Style 1. Now for those of you that are working on this at home, you probably won't have this, because earlier today I ended up doing a thing called placing my text into the document. And by placing my text from my Word document into InDesign, it came up with this specific style. So you'll notice that when I click on it, it will change several of my options. Literally all the options I just did. So for the time being, I'm going to click on none, and I'm going to crank the font size back up so you can see it. And we're going to continue. Here's all your alignment tools. You have your align left, your align center, your align right, and your align towards spine. The align towards spine option is specifically for book formatting and magazine formatting. So it will always go towards the spine, and later you'll see that there is another alignment to go away from the spine. Last but not least, for the first row, you have this one, which is just basically an indent from the left side of your formatting. And this one is from the right side. So in order to see it affect it, I will change my formatting to the right, and now you'll notice that it's doing a right indent instead. So they're basically your left and your right indents, back to back up here, ending the first row. Your second row is basically, again, your font weight, so you'll realize that you only have a few. The same exact options you basically had in the previous one when we were just looking through the font by itself. So we can also change the font weight through here. The following one is your leading. Now your leading will end up putting space between your lines. So there you go. I have 3 different lines. I'm actually putting more or less space between them. After that, you have 3 more tools that are easy as clicking on to activate and clicking on again to deactivate. This first one is small caps. So it ends up formatting it to where it's all small. The second one is your subscript, again, which is usually used for giving credit to another author or another piece of work. Again, this is mainly for your works cited page, or you see this all the time on Wikipedia references. And then your third one is your strike through. So this literally will draw a line through all of your text and the characters. After that, we have this one called tracking. Tracking ends up putting space between all your different words. As you can see, I'm expanding all my words away from one another by cranking the value up in this one called tracking. Following that is your baseline shift. So this is basically going from where your original text line was, which you can see where my cursor is right now. We started right here. Now it is moving the font and the characters up from that initial point. So that's basically all the baseline shift is going to do for you. This one over here is kind of interesting. This one is called skew. And basically what it ends up doing is it goes by degree and skews your text. You can type it in, or if you want to, you can again use the up and down tool. And you'll notice just how it's curving my text. Following that is your fill tool, your stroke tool. Your stroke tool is basically putting color around your fill of the letter. So if I put red around it, you'll realize that now I have red around my black text. Pretty cool stuff, of course. And then after that, this is again the character styling part, so we can skip over this part as it was explained earlier. And now we're going to check out the justify with last line align left, justify with last line align center, justify all lines, and last but not least for the alignment, align away from spine. So again, just a whole section of alignment tools just to help you better format for your magazine, your book, your portfolio, anything of that nature. And your last two tools over here, I'm going to go back to just original align left format for it. This one is going to put an indent on the first line from the left of where your text is starting. And this one is going to put an indent from the right of your last line of text. So to give an example of that, I'm going to have to make it a right alignment and then do it. So now you see the difference that's happening. So with all that being said, that is all the tools for your character formatting controls through the type tool. In the next section, which will be a little bit quicker since a lot of the tools do repeat themselves, we're going to go over the paragraph formatting controls options.